Hi, Bridget, and welcome to the Thrive in Life and Business podcast. How are you?
I'm so good and I'm so happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
My absolute pleasure. I'm so excited for our conversation. There's so much I want to dive into. But before we get started, would you be so kind as to give our YouTube viewers and our listeners a little insight into you and the journey to creating a $10 million brand and beyond?
Oh my gosh. Well, I got it. When I started this company, I just had a lot of hope and faith that I was going to build something really incredible. And I didn't actually know the how. I just knew that if I kept taking steps and I was around people that had their own mission that they were on, like something would rub off and I would figure it out. And I remember being a little girl thinking, like many people probably listening to this podcast, you feel like you have something special. Like there's an incredible life ahead for you. And I kind of lost that actually before I started the company. I started to listen to more of the world and I started to get more afraid and kind of shut down my voice and hide a little bit. And, it was God, it was people, God bringing people into my life. The first ever coach that I worked with, she kind of DM'd me out of nowhere. I was already on this plan to change my life, and she DM'd me out of nowhere and said, I really think I could help you do something. And I'm like, well, what are we going to do? And so I hired her for $800. And the craziest thing is that she didn't teach me anything. Like there was no rule book or blueprint framework. It was just, I believe in you. And I see something more for yourself than you see for yourself right now. And by the end of that coaching, I had increased my salary and got a new job. I had stopped dating people that I was dating. I got really healthy and lost a lot of weight. I started decreasing my debt and I was like, this thing is working. Like I made more than $800 that I invested in this. This thing works. So I hired her again the next year and I was like, I know something on my own. She's like, let's do it. So I get my life, setting myself free and really leading myself like a queen, which is now the identity, the brand identity of the Freedom Queen Company. And I ended up quitting my job a month prior to when I initially said I wanted to quit. And I started on this journey and I started learning from people and listening. And I fell in love with my now husband in a small town in Costa Rica. And we bought a house there and I've coached now 12,000 people. I've helped people become millionaires. I've helped them cross multiple millions in their business. One of my clients just crossed $1 million for the year and it's end of March. She's already made $1 million this year. I've navigated women who are getting divorced, women who are getting married, women who are navigating miscarriages, women who are having children. I feel like I've truly gone on one of the greatest adventures ever through building Freedom Queen. And that has led me to this point today, which is right now. And I really believe that women in this industry are going to change the world and create a huge ripple effect through the work that you and I do.
I have got full body goosebumps because I officially came into your world as a paid client last July for 50 to Freedom. And it was at a point just after a massive rock bottom, was going through divorce. I had so much hideous things, like so many hideous things going on behind the scenes. And I was,
Yeah.
and I used my last $111 in my account to go into 50 to Freedom. And I committed to that program like you have no idea. And I made 15 grand in that program. And that was the start of my come. Oh, I feel so emotional.
I'm crying.
Was the start of my comeback in that one program. And then went to Freedom Queen Live in 2025. We'll come on to that in a second. And I just said to Morgan, like within 10 minutes of coming back through my door, back here in the UK after Freedom Queen Live last year, I bought my ticket for Freedom Queen Live 2026. And I think all of that and the massive growth I've had since then is from getting into that one space in 50 to Freedom. And it was £111. And I went in and $111. And I just thought, I want to make as much as I possibly can from this space. And I think that's massive. And I even spoke about that program on this podcast when talking about like growth osmosis and your ability to rise. And I think it's so
Yes.
important that as women, we get ourselves in these spaces. And I think it's so incredible what can happen from those.
You know what I love about this conversation is I came on and I knew we were going to record a podcast, but one of the things that I love most about life is God will just shock you. Like this could have been just a podcast, but of course it's not just a podcast. Here we are. I now have tears. My eyes are watering. Like you are incredible. Thank you for sharing that story with me because that's it. Like you didn't have to invest your last $111. You were like, I'm going to do this because you looked at your situation and you had all of these, what the world would tell you, terrible things happening in your life. And you were like, you know what? I'm going to show up for me. And when you show up for you again and again and again, life will start to show up for you. Other people will start to show up for you, especially when you show up and during all of those hard times. So I'm just so happy for you. Congratulations.
Yeah. And that kind of brought me on to something that I wanted to kind of pick your brains on in terms of what were kind of like the mindset and the shifts that you made personally to get to that first $1 million year. Because I've just seen an Instagram story that you put on just today that said about like how you've suddenly exploded and the perspective that you had of that. And I think it's just something that everybody needs to hear. So would you mind just talking to us a little bit about kind of your mindset, your shifts going towards the first $1 million year and beyond?
Yes. So this is how my growth has been. My first year in business, I made 100K. The next year in business, I made 100K in a month. The next year, and I crossed $1 million, not for the year. The next year, I made $1 million in a year. The next year, I made $1 million in a month. So this has been the growth of my company, which is exponential growth. And one of the reasons why is, do you know that like frequency where you bought the $111 50 to Freedom program, or maybe when you bought the ticket to Freedom Queen Live, or you bought it for 2026, that's the frequency that I operate in every day. Not just when I feel good, not just when the business is booming, but also in the times where I'm like, I could literally quit right now. I hate this. In the times when there are things happening in my personal life that I'm like, this could take me out, but it's going to be the reason that I rise. I operate in that frequency. Like I'm on a mission to build something really incredible. And if I don't build it, who's going to build it? If I don't do this, who else is going to do this in the marketplace? So that's kind of always the mission that I've had. And I think what you're referring to, the exponential growth Instagram story of today, is I was talking about how a lot of the people that I started with are still in the same spot. And one of my clients today asked me, she said, why have you had exponential growth? And I said, because I really believe that our latter days are greater than our former days. I believe that there are so many more positive things to focus on than there are negative. We have choices every day. The reality is that I could have woken up today and looked at all the negative things and said, oh man, today's gonna suck. But instead I woke up and said, well, there are some negative things, but look at all these positive things. Look at all these amazing things that are coming my way. And this is not to bypass problems, because I've certainly done that. It's not good for your mental health or your heart, but it's to choose to say like, well, if I can see the darkness, why can't I see the light? You know, if you can let the darkness turn off the lights, why can't you let the light turn off the darkness? It's like, why can't you let your light shine so big that it drowns out the darkness in your life? If darkness can do that to light, why can't light do that to dark? God didn't say, let there be dark. God said, let there be light. And then there was light. And I think that a lot of times, you know, we are conditioned to bond over trauma and negativity. But I don't know. I was just raised in a household. My mother was like the queen of bonding over positivity. She was just like, we're going to win today. She was almost that person that would just like say slogans that you were like, please stop saying the slogans. Like the slogan doesn't even make sense. You'd be like eating a banana and she'd be like, you can do it. It's like, I don't need to pick me up to tell me to eat my breakfast, mom. But she was like she is this person that bonds over positivity, while the rest of the world, I find, bonds over negativity. She always looks for the silver lining. And I think part of being raised that way and just seeing the proof of it in my own life, that when you focus on the amazing clients that are with you, the people that loved your stuff, I know you have haters, and I know you have clients that broke your heart, and I know you're hurt. But what about all the people that here that love you? I know you had the team member that betrayed you, but what about the team member that's amazing? So if we could just as a world, or at the minimum as a marketplace of women in business, focus on more of the beauty in the world, I think that a lot more people would be a lot more successful, and they'd have a lot more momentum, because the darkness stops your momentum, but light keeps it going.
Yeah, I love that. I think it's so important that we just keep having those conversations and keep tapping back in. So I'm also in your book club, and I remember when you shared about handling negativity and hate and what to deal, like what to do when all of this happens. And I think it's something that so many people would shy away from. You know, they get one negative comment or one person that disagrees with an Instagram reel they've created, and they just pull back and shy away. And one thing I've definitely learned from you is that actually we've got to keep paving forwards and keep doing that regardless. And I think that's just such a mindset shift in order to be able to grow a brand in that way.
You have to, because what people are paying for is not for perfection, because I'm not perfect. They're paying for people to pioneer. That's all you have to do to really lead. You have to be the person that's like, I'm going to go down that pathway. And I know no one else has been down there, but I'll figure it out. And I've got a team and they can help me, and we're going to do this together. And you guys want to come with me, and like, we're going to figure out this new thing. That's what people are wanting. They're not wanting this perfect person. Perfection actually will move people away from you. People want the person that's like, I made mistakes, I've had a failure, I learned from it, I came back, and now here we go, on to the next one. Like, that's why people pay you. They don't pay you for your perfection that you're never going to really achieve.
So true. So talking of pioneering then, so I saw Freedom Queen Live happen in Florida in 2024, saw the whole rescheduling and saw everything about it. And I was like, I have to get myself in that room. What was that like for you? Because I know you've hosted a lot of in-person events, luxury experiences, retreats, VIP days. What was it like for you to go from hosting an event of that size to hosting a 400 woman conference of such a high level, such a high caliber? What was that like for you going for that big jump?
It was an out of body experience. And I thank God that it actually got rescheduled to the next time. I really felt like God was coming into my life saying, I'm going to help you out. And I'm going to actually delay this thing by another 2 months to give you more time. Because I do think that if the event had happened that weekend, it would not have been as successful. I always say this, but during that time, I actually got a new team, and I'm forever grateful for that experience, because if that's all that came out of that experience, I am so glad that it happened, because it moved everything in my life. You know, when things just whoosh, a big whoosh comes through your life, and God all at once like picks things up, puts things down, rearranges everything. I can imagine like a divorce is like that, where it's just like whoosh, whoosh, like things are fast happening all at once. And you're just kind of there in the eye of the storm, and you're like, you're looking around at all of the things whooshing around you, and you're like, well, this is going to be a dang good story. And that's how I felt in that situation. And, you know, I also have found that it's easier to do things at a high level than it is to do it at a lower level. So I could have done like 100-person event one day and charged $100 for it. That would have been fine. I think it would have been really hard though. You know, when you give something your all, your codes, like your DNA kind of activates. Let me give you an example. Have you ever been at the gym and you're working out and you're doing an exercise? It's like really, really hard. And for whatever reason, it feels way easier to lift the harder weight than it does to lift the small to medium size weight. I experience this a lot when I work out. When I lift at a weight that's too light for me, my body reacts really weird. It hates lightweight. It's like, this feels uncomfortable. I get irritated. I'm like, this is too light. Like I need resistance. But when I lift a weight that makes me activate the codes in my body, my DNA, my muscles, my bone strength, my power, it's like whoosh, like it feels perfect, right? You feel the power initiate inside of the body. So it's the same thing in business. I found that it's easier to do things at a higher scale than it is to do things at a little scale. The little scale feels like this is actually irritating and difficult. The bigger the project, the easier it is. easier. Of course, it requires a lot of manpower as well.
What's it been like for you going from the first Freedom Queen Live to last year's in terms of, I know that you just want to keep raising the bar and making it more incredible and more incredible. What was that like in terms of like the creativity and really leaning more into that aspect?
So every year, Freedom Queen Live changes. And one of the things I love about this is that it gives you permission to change. One of my favorite quotes is, "You get paid to evolve." If you don't evolve, your brand will not exist 5 years from now, a year from now. You have to evolve. So every year, Freedom Queen Live has been very different. The first year was like the industry event, the event of the year. It was like very much so over the top, the diamond theme, pressure under the diamond. There's so many storylines around that. Last year was like it's showtime. Like we had performers and dancers and singers and musicians, and I had like Taylor Swift showgirl outfit and very much so over the top show. This year, what we're doing with Freedom Queen Live is I want you to imagine that you are a woman who's wearing white and black, kind of like you stripped away everything and you're wearing white and black and you don't have that much makeup on. You're just kind of showing up as you. There's no mask, it's just you. And you're walking straight ahead. And as you're walking, there's like this tornado happening around you, this big whoosh, like whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. And everything is being picked up around you, the good, the bad, everything. And you're just kind of like walking through it, observing it, seeing it all. But as you get closer to the screen, everything is gone. It's like slowly over time, we peeled back everything that is not you and we just got to the core of you. What actually matters, the freedom to be you. So that's not the theme, but it's the word of Freedom Queen Live. It's the why. What happens when we pull back everything and just go back to the truth of what it means to be free and to really lead a business? So this year's Freedom Queen Live, you're not going to see a lot of colors. There's not going to be like pinks and reds and glitters and feathers. It's going to be a lot of like, I'm going to show you that you can build a $10 million company, a multi-million dollar company off of being you and yourself and seeing one woman at a time, and it will compound. So that's the word of Freedom Queen Live this year and how it's evolved.
I love that. And it's so powerful because I feel so many people feel they need to fit a certain mold, have a certain way that they show up, have certain colors, wear certain things in order to be successful. And I think then they're always just trying to force this brand that isn't authentic, it isn't genuine, it's not a true representation of them. And I think it's so important
Mm-hmm.
given that permission and activation to actually just say, this is how you get to do it. And it's bringing it back to what is so important to them.
Yeah, I want to show women like you don't need all of this. Like, why are you so distracted? You don't need the things and the frings and the thrills and all. Like, we just need you. Your customers need you with a mission, and you need to go talk about it. And that's all you need to do. Like, you could literally put me in a closet, and I would still have the business that I have to this day. Like, I don't need all of the extra stuff. And that's kind of why I recently went through a rebrand. I'm showing a lot less of me and a lot like there's a lot more of imagery of just like my head or turtlenecks or these blazers where I'm kind of covered up. I really just want to show people like you don't need all of it. I'm telling you, you don't. And I think a lot of people, why this is really interesting is a lot of people know this, but they forgot it. Like when you start your company, you know this. You know, like it was just you with a microphone pressing go live on Instagram. And then somewhere along the way, people started to think like they needed to add in all of this stuff. And that's great. Like I love it, but I want to show you this year that you don't need all of that and that you can actually scale even faster when you let go of everything you're trying to hold on to.
One thing that I absolutely adore about this is I've followed you for a couple of years, and I've definitely seen like different seasons, different iterations of your brand. And I love that you continue to evolve. And I love that each time you do evolve, there is such a clear definition in a brand and an archetype, if you like, to that season of the
Mm.
brand. And I think it's so important that business women can just continue to evolve. And I think you're kind of leading the way and doing that incredibly well.
Well, thank you. And you have to. I think about people like Taylor Swift. You know, Taylor Swift is now $1 billion net worth. And we look at other celebrities and who are amazing. great skill set, but she's not a leader of a, but they're not leaders of movements. Taylor Swift is a leader of a movement. And what has she done? Evolved. She just did one of the highest grossing tours, and it was all about her evolution. It was the Eras tour. All about the evolution of her. It was the highest ticket sales. She made so much money from that. I don't know if I'm correct in saying this, but it was definitely multi nine figures, if not $1 billion from that tour. A lot of money was made from that. And what was that tour? It was not the same thing she's always done. It was not, here's one look into my life. It's, here is the evolution of me. And then you know what she did during the tour? She dropped the next evolution, was the life of showgirl. She started the next evolution while in the current evolution, and then dropped life of a showgirl, and then made a ton of money from that. And I'm sure she's working on something else now. So it's like, and if you look at all of those different albums that she has, they're all so different. She has like the pop girl, the country girl, the like sad, heavy metal type of person with the tortured poets. Like there's so many different types of albums. That's why she's successful, because she keeps evolving. And a lot of artists aren't. If you see it, a lot of artists don't evolve, despite the fact that they are amazing artists.
Yeah, love that. So talking of evolving and innovation, I know you've got massive goals and incredible dreams and visions for Freedom Queen. What's that going to look like in terms of the growth, the mindset, the identity shift to go from where you're at now to the incredible goals that you have?
So I think that from 1 million to 10 million was what I would call like chaotic growth. So it was a lot of like trial and error, testing things out, doing everything under the sun. Like really just kind of the first 2 years were figuring it out. I would even say the first 3 years, 21, 22, 23, we're like, what are we doing? Now I know what we're doing. So now I feel this exponential growth through a level of knowing. It's like Freedom Queen is really well known in the industry, in the marketplace. I was on a call with somebody earlier last week, and they said, now at the end of last week, they said, in the chat, I saw people talking about Freedom Queen, and they were talking about the infamous Freedom Queen. And I was in the chat, and they were like, we didn't know that you own this company. And I was like, hold on. You don't know that Bridget James Ling owns Freedom Queen? Like that was like a really another out of body experience for me where I was like, this has really gotten bigger than me. And that's always been my intention. So my intention now is like evolving the Freedom Queen brand. I feel like it went from Freedom Queen to Freedom Queen. And there's this power and sophistication, you could even say maturity around the brand, where I'm really starting to see a lot of people in the industry and even in different industries starting to come into my mentorship spaces and programs and wanting to collaborate and learn from me and buy our merchandise or buy different products that I have inside of the company. And so it feels like the kind of the era where we know what Freedom Queen is. Now let's just exponentially grow versus the more chaotic growth is what I feel like happened 1 to 10 million, 10 million to 100 million is like, we know where we're going. Let's build exactly what we're here to build.
And I guess at that point, it is just absolute refinement and doubling down on what really does work. Really?
Yes. Yeah, and we still innovate a lot. I think that's still a part of Freedom Queen is looking at like what works, what doesn't work, and then innovating in that situation of like what do we want to bring forward in the marketplace that's new right now, that's really important. But definitely like we know what works at this point. Let's keep doing that, but make everything better.
Love it. So one final question. If somebody is just at that feeling when they're just wanting to absolutely blow everything up, have that big whoosh, ride the wave of momentum, what would be your kind of main key takeaway for them or main key message?
I just got done filming a program called The Art of the Whoosh, and I did a call before the trainings, and it was called the Aliveness Call. Because a part of building something really big is that you have to, as the leader, feel alive inside of it. Like, if you don't feel alive inside of it, you're not going to have your biggest launch ever. You're not. And I've seen too many people make a lot of money and lose their aliveness, the very life force that made them money in the first place. And they think that because they got to some certain level of success, that their aliveness is just going to stay. But what I have found is that you have to source new energy, like new aliveness, new reason why you're doing this, new, literally a different frequency in yourself, kind of like a tapped in intuition to the world that's like, okay, I'm going to do this. I'm really going to build this now, and I'm going to build something amazing, and I'm going to take on a greater mission for the humanity of women. And it creates this aliveness in yourself that allows you to go forward and fulfill that mission. Because you can have the greatest plan on a mission, but if you don't have any energy and aliveness to go and fulfill that mission, it's not going to work. We need the woman behind the mission to be alive in order for the mission to really work. And that has to happen before anything else. So I would say that, and that works whether you're at level 1, you're at level 10, you're at level 100, whatever it is, that works. You need to become alive first and foremost.
And this is such a full circle moment, because that was one of the things I think 50 to Freedom gave me last summer, is it helped me feel alive again. And then everything started to work after months of nothing working. So I love that. And it's so profound. I love that.
It's so good. I love what you said there. After nothing working, and then you made $15,000.
Days. That was so
So
proud.
good.
Bridget, thank you so much. Keep doing the incredible work you're doing. I cannot wait to be back in Florida this November.
Me
And thank
too.
you so much for everything that you do.
Thank you for having me. This was absolutely incredible.